Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Calm Scribe in Conversation with. Tonight, we are back in conversation with Mermaid Serenade. As you may have remembered, Mermaid was with us back in November for a conversation, and now she has come back to join us again. Mermaid is... so this month we're being joined by Mermaid, and she's here to discuss her upcoming art show that we talked about during the last time that she was here for an interview. Mermaid Serenade is a Mexican-American artist based in upstate New York. She's received her BFA in painting from the Pacific Northwest College of Art in 2011. She makes Papel Picado-themed artworks and comics and piñatas. She's a mom to one awesome little gremlin, loves making homemade Mexican food, which I actually made for dinner tonight, and playing skee ball, watching horror movies, and playing video games. Mm-hmm. There we go. So welcome, Mermaid. How are you tonight?
I'm doing good. I was just thinking while you were reading that, I need to update that because I am currently expecting another little gremlin.
Hey, congratulations. That's fantastic.
I'm glad you read that because I would have never thought to update it.
Congratulations. That's big, exciting news, and it's more complications to life.
Yeah, right, exactly. Let's just make everything as complicated as possible.
Yeah, I thought of that because there's just still people like, I honestly thought when you had a baby, the whole question of when you're having a baby goes away. It doesn't. While my wife was pregnant, people were like, so you can have a second one? It's like, let this one finish, let it come out, and then we'll see what happens. And as it stands, no, probably not.
Yeah, no, it's a tough decision. Our first child, she's 3.5 right now. So by the time the baby's here, she'll be closer to 4. But we weren't sure. Like I was telling everybody, it was one and done, and then life changes, and you're like, oh, maybe this would be fine. So now we've signed up, so we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll keep track on how that goes. I turned 42 on the 21st, so I don't know if there's any more in the cards for us, so we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, age is a tough thing. My husband's a bit older too. He's 45, so he's, I feel like we're really pushing it on like the age situation.
Well, there's just times where you're just sitting there and just like, why? Like, my life was quiet. It was calm. Like, I love my daughter to pieces. Don't get me wrong. But there's times when you've got like, because you have to be so patient. And you've got this little thing that now can run around and grab stuff and is like a mini human that does the worst stuff to you and you can't get upset about it. Like, I'll pick her up and she will like scream in my face and then grab handfuls of my beard and pull as hard as she can. And I'm like, if you were like a small adult-sized human, I would throw you off a cliff. But you're a baby, so I can't do that. I have to be patient because you don't know what you're doing.
Oh, totally. And you really have to remind yourself, you're like, I'm the adult. Like they don't know any better. Our 3-year-old just started the phase where she has no sensor for anything. So like sometimes when like we wake up in the morning, she'll like, if I'm like too close to her, she'll be like, Mama, you smell horrible. And I'm like, thanks. So what I want to hear right when I wake up in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm at the cute point still where she'll wake up and the first thing she does is like crawl over and look at me, like put her face right up in mine and be happy to see me. But the thing that I found that helps with that is obviously when they're crying, they don't know or screaming. That's their way of communicating. They don't have any other way. And so I hold her close, and no matter how much pain I'm in physically or my head or anything like that, or my ears from her screaming at me, I just have the mantra that I go through my head, which is, the only thing that matters at this present moment in time is making sure that she feels safe and connected and comforted and knows that there's people here for her when she is in distress. Everything else for me I can deal with afterwards. And so I just keep thinking the only thing that matters right now is her. And that does a great job at keeping me calm and not getting frustrated when, because it's easy to be like, oh, I've got a meeting coming up, or I just want to go to sleep, or I'm in pain. It's like, none of that matters. She doesn't know that stuff.
Yeah, no, being a parent definitely requires being capable of just being in the moment and being present and not worrying about other things that are happening before or after, which I historically am very bad at. So I've been learning a lot.
Yeah,
I've learned a lot.
it definitely is a learning curve, and that's what I found with this is that historically I've been the same way. Like it's been kind of rough for me. My head is always somewhere else. But yeah, that's the number one thing is making sure and avoiding some of these old school trains of thought from parenting. It's amazing how many old people have these like really terrible thoughts of how to do things, and it's like I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's like we can just do what we feel is right, you know. We don't need to listen to all the advice.
and there's so much of it out there. There really is. But congratulations, that's very exciting. It's fantastic to hear. And you heard it here first, chat. No, but that's great. So, are you planning on taking any time off then from streaming or working, or what are you thinking about doing?
I am really so I'm doing something kind of fun this time around. When I during postpartum last time, it was honestly like was really horrible, and because I actually I got an epidural during labor, and they missed my spine. And so I had to get like 2 blood patches, but even that wasn't enough. And I had a spinal migraine for
Jeez.
like 2 weeks, and so I couldn't like stand up straight. I had to like walk hunched over because anytime my head was like more than a 45-degree angle, I was just in excruciating pain. um and then I had this like rash because I had to get an MMR vaccine because I didn't have like my I guess I didn't have vaccination or something. Anyway, and I didn't ask for any help. Also, I was still like, no, I can handle everything, like it's just 2 of us and we're dying, but we're fine, like we don't need any help. So I think this time around I really want to like center the postpartum experience with like first of all just inviting as many of my friends who want to come help me as possible. Just saying like come on down, like whatever, if you can hold the baby for a little bit while I nap or whatever it is, just embracing that. And then also I'm doing this thing. It's called a residency in motherhood, where this artist, I believe it was maybe like almost 10 years ago now, she was a parent and she decided to start like just to do a residency at her house. Um, and she just, picked the time, and I forget her name, but she had like a whole website dedicated to it. And now it's something that like any parents can participate in it. You just like pick the dates you want to participate, and it's kind of like this global thing. So at any given point, there's like 50 to 200 parents around the world who are sort of participating in this artist residency. And it can be a time that you use for whatever you want. If you do want it to be focused like art time, like you can, structure it that way. Or if you want it to be loose and just sort of like freestanding and just more kind of going with the flow, that can be what it's for too. And so I'm kind of just signing up for that postpartum period, because the goal that this artist had was really that she wanted to reorient people with instead of thinking about parenting as this thing that like removes creativity, it removes your ability to grow and to learn, that it is a place of creativity, and it is a place of inward thinking, and it is a place of growth and all these positive things. So she really wanted to change the language around it. And so I'm trying to go into it with that sort of mentality of like it's gonna be a free for all that's completely unstructured. I'm only planning to like really have like a notepad and a pencil by my bed that I can like jot down different like thoughts as they come. I don't want to put like any pressure on myself to commit to any sort of like schedule for at least 4 months. So, but we'll really see how it goes, because one thing last time too is that I really just didn't give myself any time or space to be alone, and I was not expecting so much physical requirement, like a physical requirement, which I know sounds kind of odd because it's like it's a baby, it needs to be held all the time. But
Yeah, but
I
it's
just
something new when you're not used to it. It is like even for myself, like
yeah,
I've disabled and a big guy, but it's hard on the body. It really is.
yeah, yeah. And also with nursing, I wasn't expecting it to be like such a full-time thing. I don't know what I thought, like, but so I think this time around, I might stream if I think streaming is going to be better for my mental health. It's really going to depend on my mental health. Like I'll probably keep like my therapy no matter what,
Yeah.
because I'll probably need that. But but with streaming, I'm really gonna try to let it be like I'll stream if it makes sense to stream and just put no pressure on myself, ask for help, and just roll with it. Really, is my strategy.
That completely makes sense, and that's a fantastic thing. Hello, Paradox. How are you tonight? Welcome. But yeah, that's the physical toll is kind of shocking, and that's actually brought to light some stuff for me as well. But that artist residencies thing sounds absolutely amazing because it is a big shift. Obviously, I'm coming from it from a father's perspective, but I found for myself it was very inspiring. I found my ideas started flowing when I had enough sleep, but my ideas were flowing, and I got really kind of inspired and energized by it. I've got all these things that I want to do and that I want to write, but it's prioritizing and staying on top of that. But having that kind of residency and knowing that it doesn't have to end your creativity or end what you've got going on. It's a new step in life, and it does take some really big adjustments and changes.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was because of my daughter that I realized I had to do things that I normally didn't do, and I ended up having to noticing my manual dexterity was getting worse and other things were getting worse. And now I'm because of not because of my daughter, but because of what she opened my eyes to and made me really pay more attention to with this new having the physical strain. I'm now facing 4 surgeries.
Mm, wow.
So it's a surgery on my hand, which is just from my bent finger, but then I'm now facing a surgery in both my elbows and a really serious spinal cord surgery.
Jeez, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but it might make things better. But for the spine, they actually have to move my esophagus and my trachea and arteries off to the side, cut out part
Oof.
of my spine, take a piece of bone from my hip, put it in my neck, put everything
Mm.
back. So we'll see what happens.
That's incredible also. Like I don't know anything about like I've only had like a couple of procedures done, but the fact that you just said all that, that's like, wow, that's something we can do. That's like that's cool. Like
Yeah.
that's an option.
Well, I had an appointment with my doctor today, and she was like, "So how did it go with the neurosurgeon?" I'm like, "Well, they're going to cut in, they're going to move these things aside and access the neck from like the spine from the front, and do all this stuff." And then when I was done, my GP, my doctor was like, "Wow, that's a that's a lot." I'm like, yeah. Like, I figured that they'd like go into the back and do something, but no, they're actually going to like move my neck apart and then put it back together. So we'll see.
Yeah. Wow. And what's the recovery going to be like for that? Are you going to just like chill for a month or like I have no idea I don't know what our healing capabilities are.
Yeah. Well, you're in a neck brace for 8 weeks. Can't
Okay.
really carry anything of much weight. Apparently, the worst part of it, the most miserable part and the most excruciating part of the recovery and the surgery is having the bone removed from your hip. And having your hip
Oh,
heal is the worst part of the surgery.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All
So
right. Well,
we'll see what
hmm.
happens. But I mean, it's one step at a time. Everything that goes along, like the human body is pretty amazing at what it can bounce back from. But yeah, kids teach us all these things and let us know all these wonderful things about ourselves.
Yeah, they really do.
Right?
Yeah, they have no idea.
No, and that's yeah. So the little one had her first major accident the other day where she fell off the couch. Didn't get hurt,
Oh,
but it was the first like big tumble. So
oh yeah.
that one's out of the way.
Hmm. Okay, well, yeah, done. Check.
Exactly. It's like your first car accident, right? When you drive, it's your first. That's why I know my mom was always waiting for me to have my first car accident, so I'd be
Mhm.
out of the way, and it wakes you up and makes you more alert. So,
Yeah, yeah, true.
but speaking of all of this stuff and art and everything else, you are here for a reason. Apart from just having a nice conversation, for the fact that your art show is so. Is it live now?
Yeah, yeah, the art show, the opening was on Saturday, this last Saturday. Yeah, it was at I think it was at 3 o'clock. And yeah, all the artwork is up. I curated the show myself and I installed the show myself, which was a lot more work than I realized it was gonna be. But yeah, it's up. I'm really happy with the way that it looks, and it's up through March.
That is fantastic. So where is the? So let's start at the beginning. I know you were working on the artwork. Obviously, you got all the pieces done. I think I popped in on the stream where you were working on your last piece,
Mm.
or penultimate piece. Uh, but so you got the artwork done. Where is the show? Let's start with that. Where is the show?
So it's at the Art Society of Kingston, and this is in upstate New York. The Art Society of Kingston is like um, it's like a community. I don't want to say it's like a museum, but it's kind of like a community museum where there are members who can participate in different shows, and they have a gallery space that's for solo exhibitions. They also work with other organizations like Celebrate 845, which is a really cool nonprofit as well. So it's a really good like hub for creativity in upstate New York, which is and it's very close to where I live. So um, I was just, when I moved up to upstate last year, I was kind of just looking around and they ended up having an open call. And so I kind of just applied through that process and was chosen to have the solo show was kind of the beginning of it.
That's fantastic. Now, this is your first major art show, isn't it?
Yeah, it's my first solo exhibition. Yes, that's up for a month. I did like a couple of solo pop-up shows that were like one night only in New York, but this is probably like the first like official kind of like legitimate like solo show.
That's fantastic. To go through the application process and to get a month long solo show from it is just beyond
Yeah.
belief. So, is it physical only or is it virtual as well?
Um, I did have a virtual opening, and I do have a slideshow that I can, that I can share. And I think that it will probably be, I should just throw the slideshow up on my website now that I think about it. So that way people can go to my website and kind of see the whole show. So I guess there isn't a digital component that you can see the whole show like right now. Um, but yeah, maybe that's something I'll do like this week, so that way people can.
Yeah, that I'm sure people would definitely be interested in seeing that and seeing what the work is. So, how many pieces did you do for the show?
So I did a total of, let's see, there were there were 21 in the stop listen series. And then I did two pieces of papel picado. I made some paper flowers. So that's 22, 24 pieces. And then I had potentially five other paintings I could include, but I only ended up including one. So I guess technically there's 25 pieces in the show.
Wow,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that is very that is very exciting. So obviously, coming up with the artwork, coming up with the ideas, and creating them is one thing, but which we'll get to. But it's also, like you said, you built the exhibition yourself, and so how was that? Like, did you take time to like take a look at the space and sit down and kind of lay out on paper and map out where you wanted things to be put down first, or did you just kind of walk in and decide on the fly as to how you want to have it laid out?
I did a little bit of both. Like they gave me a gallery map, so I could kind of see the length of the walls, and I could kind of plan the number of pieces that would go on each wall. And I was thinking a little bit about color, um, as far as how I was going to orient it. But it's so hard to plan in advance for something like that because you just really don't know what the space is going to be like. You don't know what the lighting is going to be like, and you don't know how the pieces are going to really respond to each other, which is I know is sort of a weird concept, but different paintings or different works of art sit better next to certain paintings versus others, and that relationship, is not something you really can understand the full scope of until you kind of just move things around. There's also in artworks like directionals that happen sort of organically, where there's certain parts, whether they're abstract or whether it's somebody looking left or looking right, that kind of move like someone's eye and kind of control the movement of how someone moves through the space. So that's something that you can't really, it's hard to kind of like know that in advance. For me, for the curation process, what became challenging was that one of the primary walls, when you first come in, had a light switch that was 51 inches from the ground. And when you're hanging a show, you want the center of each work to be at eye level, and that's usually around 54 to 60 inches, 60 inches being on like the higher, even maybe to like 65 inches being on the higher side. And so really what that did is it really removed the ability for any larger works to be hung on that wall. And that kind of dictated how I was able to hang all the other pieces because I had to create a line of sight that was high enough that the bottom of the painting wouldn't hit that light switch. So I ended up going with like a super high line of sight, which was fine because the ceilings were tall, so I got away with it. But I ended up hanging the center having the center of each piece be 64 inches from the ground, which is pretty tall for me. That's probably as tall as I am. I think 64 inches, 5'4". I'm not sure. I have to check the math. But anyway, so that was a challenge. And curate it took probably like 4 hours to curate it, and then by that time I was ready to hang. And then the hanging process is just there's a lot of math, and it's a lot of fractional math. So it's just like not math that is like super obvious, just to get the spacing correct. And yeah, no, it took it was like a full 8-hour day, and I was exhausted, and I was glad that I hung it on Thursday so I could rest on Friday, because I was super tired.
Yeah, I can imagine so. And proof that even though you're an artist, that math that you had to take in school does come in handy once in a while in life.
You need math. You need it.
It does factor in. So would you say that's the same thing if you're hanging artwork at home? You want the middle to be at eye height.
It depends on what you're doing, because at home it's more I would say it's a little bit more designy, and I know that it's really popular to hang things kind of like in a grouping of like images. I know that there's like I forget what the style is called, but I think it's like salon style. So that's really popular right now in people's homes, where they'll hang like one painting here and one here, and then one kind of here and here, and it's like kind of creating like one larger piece. That was the way that paintings were hung, like in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So and then it just changed when I don't know, like 1940s, I would say. And that's when we got this like singular, like, no, each piece needs to be spaced out in one line on a wall.
Equidistant apart and all that fun
Yeah.
stuff. So
Yeah.
So when people go, is this just for viewing pleasure only, or are the pieces available to be sold as well?
Yeah, they're available to buy. Like they are priced. And yeah, that's the goal, obviously to get them to sell. Well, that's part of the goal, I should say. The most important goal is that the body work is done, and that, it contributes to this, bigger conversation that I'm having as an artist. So if I sell work, that's cool. That's a nice little cherry on top. I'm happy that the show just exists.
That's fantastic. So that's actually something that I was thinking of. I'm friends with a couple of gallery owners where I live.
Cool.
And I'm in a major city here in Canada. And there's one in particular I think that actually might be good. Might try to connect you to.
Oh yeah, please do.
Because it'd be I've purchased I think 6 paintings from them so far.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and my wife and I are both art collectors. A little bit less so now because of the baby and wall space.
Thank you for buying art from, I'm assuming they were living artists, hopefully.
Yes, all living artists. There's actually
That's
our
great.
prize piece is a diamond, like a diamond hung rabbit peeking out through ferns, and it's from this artist who's really well known, who has the piece is about nature. The moment nature is deciding to fight back against humans. Hey, welcome, Blinkerbell. Welcome.
I'm trying to see if the online gallery is up at this place so I can give you guys a link. Let's see.
Yes, if you put it in, Nightbot will ban you for 30 seconds, but I can put a link back in myself after.
Here, I'll throw it in your chat. I'll directly message the link to you if that's helpful.
Ah, that works.
Okay,
Yeah, so it is all living people that we've bought our art from.
that's great.
And this thing is, each side of the painting is 4 feet. So it's 4 feet by 4 feet square, hung in a diamond. And
That's awesome.
absolutely gorgeous. So let's see here in the chat.
That's great. I'm the biggest supporter of like, buy artwork from people who are alive, please. Like support people who are making art and who are, making a living. The gallery people who are reselling paintings for thousands and thousands of dollars of dead artists, they don't need any more. But those people don't need any more money.
Exactly.
They're fine. They're doing great.
Yeah, they are. And that's something that you do need to support, the living artists, and because that's been something for a very long time though, right? Is even we hear about how just throwing out names like Picasso and Monet and all these other people weren't truly respected in their times. It wasn't until after they died that people were like, "Oh, this is fantastic." It's like, it would
Yeah.
have been nice to hear that when you're
Yeah.
alive and be
Van
able to
Gogh died
survive.
out of her selling a painting. So sad for him.
Yeah,
And yeah. But I hear there's a really good Doctor Who episode about Van Gogh coming back to the future and then like seeing how much he's appreciated, which I
I
still need to
I saw
watch.
that one. It
Yeah.
was amazing. It was so
I
well
need to
done.
watch it.
Yeah, I recommend it. It's really well done. So how did your opening go?
It went really good. I have to say though that like when the pandemic hit and I got on Twitch, like I've gotten really used to these types of like social interactions and streaming on Twitch. So I was really like over overloaded sensory. Like I was it was shocking to me that like so many people were looking in my eyes. Like I was just like overwhelmed, but it was honestly it was great. The turnout was really good. I had a good group of friends just come up and visit. I had actually one of my friends and followers from on Twitch since the beginning came out. She had just gotten back from South Korea, and so she was like, "Oh, I want to come up." So that was really cool. And then we went out to get beer and pizza afterwards, and it was just a great time.
That's fantastic. I'm
Yeah,
glad it
so
went so well for you. Like this is just sounds like such an exciting beginning to your March.
yeah, I'm glad that this is like happening at this point in the year because like I've like was so exhausted doing the install. I was like, I can't imagine being any more pregnant doing any of this.
I was thinking that's pretty impressive that you're pregnant and doing that and getting all that done is pretty daunting. It's just being is exhausting enough.
Yeah,
If I learned anything from my wife,
yeah.
that was a
And
big
thanks,
thing.
Blinker Bell. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, it is beautiful. I pulled it up here as well, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I got to see your work on some of it, but yeah, I think this is something that, like I said, I'll get you connected with this one gallery in particular that I'm thinking of. They do a
Yeah.
lot of very interesting work. They're the ones that I did the wine tasting with, where it was old school and new school, old world and new world wines mixed with, or paired with old world and new world art.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so there's like one thing of art was old photography from I think the 1800s, and then the new world was found objects that were arranged on a scanner bed and then scanned for the photograph.
Oh, that's really cool. I love that
Yeah.
concept.
So it's just really cool things. And yeah, and then there's a wine tasting of it along with it. So there's an old world wine and a new world wine, and as you're tasting one, you would pair against the other, and it was great.
Yeah, that sounds super fun.
Yeah. So are you looking at, apart from the obvious, uh, are you looking at preparing for another show at any time soon, or are you thinking about just letting this, like basking in the glow of this one for a little while and just doing some creative stuff for the sake of doing creative?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that for me, one thing that I'm learning about myself later in life is that there's no shortage of ideas, but I need to prioritize like my mental and just physical health in general. So, like, and I'm starting to understand too that like time spent away from creativity can be just as fruitful as dedicated serious time because I've gone through like both phases where I'm like making work and churning it out as fast as possible, and then also just spending like months away from it. So I think now that the show is done, I really want to let like those ideas that I was thinking about and those paintings that I made, I kind of just want to marinate with them a little bit. I do have some sketches that I think have the potential to move into a place where it could be another body of work. Um, I feel really compelled for the next body of work to work with graphite, which is a surprise to me because I hate graphite, but I think I just there's a tone that graphite really establishes when it's in a work of art that I think carries a more serious and thoughtful tone than say something like colored pencil. Um, so there are like bits and pieces of it that are sort of coming to me. But I do want to take a couple of months off. Definitely. I want to like play some video games and just like reset my mind a little bit and also I completely stopped working on the comic that I started. And so what I really want to do is do more writing for the comic, which is a completely different gear, and different set of thoughts and ideas. And I want to work on getting the storyline for that just a little bit more structured, and doing some more sketching for that. But that's kind of like a really really long term project. I have no deadline for the comic at all. It's just a nice way to switch up what my brain is working on, just to kind of refresh. Open, just close one program and open another one.
Yeah, it's like doing working on a novel and jumping to a short story and back and forth. But that's you
Yeah.
made a very good point in that in the time off, quiet time, meditation, relaxation, all of these things. While at first they can seem like it's a waste of time and you should be doing something, find artists and creatives who definitely follow or fall into the should be traps. Can be just as creative, can be just as important for creativity because that gives your brain a chance to rest and to think and to expand and to take in new ideas and new concepts and things. And we have Blinker Bell saying that take a break and then paint more because they're amazing. And what games do you play?
Well, right now, I'm playing Diablo 2 Resurrected because I liked Diablo 3 a lot, and I'm only I think I'm only like maybe like half a dozen campaigns into like Diablo 2 Resurrected, so I want to get back to that. But I also just got on Switch all the Nintendo 64 games, which that was like my introduction into gaming. And so I also want to play that. Like I want to play through Mario 64. I want to like beat all the levels in Mario Kart 64. And I want to play Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time on 64 because my older brother and sister had it and they never let me play. And then finally when they did, like no one helped me and I was like younger, so I couldn't figure it out. So now I'm like, now's the time. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, I picked that up too when it came out, this N64. So I've got the Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, and the N64 complete package of games that Nintendo came out with, which is a lot of fun to be able to play with. And it's great for playing on stream because it doesn't overtax your computer by trying to run a game and stream at the same time. You just
Yeah,
port it
definitely.
over. Yes, nostalgia play is huge. And I think, yeah, that's a Mother's Day or birthday gifts is a great idea
Yeah,
for buying artwork and paintings and things like that,
yeah, yeah, definitely.
and just showing your support to people.
Hmm.
But that's so it is a thing from jumping from one to the next. I'm really excited because it was actually your comic book that first got me introduced to you.
Hmm.
I saw you streaming and doing a comic book, and it
Hmm.
was just the artwork was beautiful. I was really attracted to what you're working on, and that kind of got me into your stream and got me into thinking about having you come on for an interview.
Hmm.
That's great. And it's, again, for a chat that's out there, it's not just paintings and comic books. It's also pinatas. I believe that's a couple of things behind you that are
Yeah,
pieces you've created.
there's a Yoda one, a baby Yoda, and then there's a Diablo pinata over here, and then a pumpkin. I think there's an Among Us. I can bring them closer if you guys want to see them.
And there's Among Us, and there's a coronavirus. Is that Chomp?
Yeah, that's Chain Chomp. Yeah, I'll give you guys a little tour. Well, this is Baby Yoda right here.
Wow.
And then I have a little Chain Chomp. Chomp Chomp. That's from N64. Let's see. And then I have this little Among Us guy. So these are some of the pinatas I made for fun. Yeah, but yeah, I haven't made any pinatas recently either because I've been like focused solely on the show. So I want to like do fun stuff, you know? Not that the work is not fun, it's just it's serious.
Yeah, and it takes on. There's a different level when you are working for a deadline for something like that. It takes on a different level, a different tone. Your creativity takes on a different tone. The whole thing is slightly different.
Yeah. And like I've been a painter for a long time, and this body of work was also like I want to say it was like the first body of work that really felt like me and really felt like I was like kind of owning and claiming my own voice. And so I was taking it very seriously and not like I don't know, it didn't have the same, like when I'm making a Yoda pinata, obviously I'm feeling a little bit different than when I'm making like hyper realistic Papel Picado paintings, you know. So
Exactly.
different.
Base Prefect, welcome. Yes, it is absolutely amazing. So let's talk about the artwork that you did. What was the inspiration behind the pieces? So the piece was called Stop Listen.
Mhm.
And what was the inspiration behind that? How did you come up with this concept and decide which pieces to do?
Yeah. So there's two primary components to the paintings, the Papel Picado itself, and then kind of like the language of stop and listen. And the Papel Picado was something that organically like came into my process when I first started thinking about it when I got married in 2016, and we were talking about like design for the wedding, and it felt really important to me that there was Papel Picado there because it's a part of my culture, and I was like I if I'm gonna get, if I'm gonna get married, like this symbol has to be there. And I remember thinking at the time, like, like that's really interesting. Like, why do I feel like this symbol is super important to me? And it was the first time I started thinking about like what is critical in my life, like what needs to be there no matter what. And then so I kind of like made it and was just playing around with it for a year. And then in 2017, I had a miscarriage, and that miscarriage for me kind of like really brought back a lot of trauma that I went through as a kid, and it was really hard to go through. And again, I was really thinking about what about life is necessary, and what about life feels like critical for me to have to exist. And so I was doing a lot of drawings of Papel Picado because I really identified with it as a symbol, um, because it was something that was meant to celebrate joy, but in order to celebrate joy, you had to cut pieces out of it, and it was very fragile and very delicate. And to me, it just felt like a perfect metaphor for where I was at. And I think really in 2017 was kind of when I began this process of thinking about like what how do I define the joy in my life, and how do I create that and embrace these sort of pieces of myself that I've either cut out or I've suffered through, and what does that look like? And so the stop listen, that message, moving on to kind of like the second part, that was something that came to me kind of forcefully because I also was let go in 2020. And I was, before that, I was somebody who was like very much a workaholic. I had always been that way. And so when I was let go, it was pretty devastating in the sense that like I was like holy crap, I've never spent like this much time with my own thoughts. This is horrible. Like, but really what I was able to gather from that experience was really that there was a lot of grief sitting underneath all of the things that I was doing, that I was pushing down and keeping down, and it was creating so much anxiety in me. And so finally, like when I think about stop and listen, it's really that moment where I decided to just stop, like literally, and listen to what grief was trying to communicate with me about how I felt about my life, about my anxiety, about my body. I was having like some medical issues that were because I, was neglecting to just take care of myself. And so that was in 2020. And I took some time to kind of like process a lot of those things that were happening. And then I actually had another body of work that came just before it that was just 6 paintings, that was really about how I was cutting out parts of my culture and white spaces because I was feeling like if I brought that part of myself to those spaces that I would be judged for it, or I just didn't feel safe doing that. And so I had to make some work that was just kind of like addressing that directly. And that body of work really then kind of grew into this new body of work of stop listen. And the process for making those works, I actually will just kind of like draw a design out, and then I'll actually make the papel picado itself with tissue paper. And I'll then stage like a still life where I control the lighting and take a photo that I like and use that as a reference photo for the watercolor, the colored pencil, and the acrylic painting. Because at the end of the day, I love still life is one of my faves. I like that. So that was a really long answer, but there you go.
That was an amazing answer. It was a great answer. And for those of you and for those in the chat that may not know, can you again explain what papel picado is?
Yeah, so papel picado is like you might be most familiar with it. At the very beginning of the movie Coco. It's like these celebratory banners that you could hang at parties. You see them a lot at like Cinco de Mayo stuff, but they're it's a Mexican paper craft. It's an indigenous paper craft, as far as I know. There's kind of unclear like who like where exactly it came from. Like there's a little bit of Dutch influence because the Dutch were in Mexico for a little bit of Spanish influence and a little bit of Chinese influence, because I know there's tons of cultures around the world that do a lot of paper cutting and whatnot. But yeah, that's papel picado.
That's a fantastic way to listen to, like you said, to stop and reflect and listen to your culture, to your body, to your life, to everything. And it's great that you're able to recognize, although I'm sure you probably knew that you were pushing down your culture at some points, and like you said, in white spaces. And it's great to be able to have that recognition and stop and to start celebrating and living in and bringing to the forefront who you are.
No, definitely. But I think I was really like afraid to, honestly. And I think that I didn't really think about, well, and it's weird because we live in like a society where like if you are really good at getting promoted and like good at doing your job and making money, that everybody will kind of be like, oh, you're doing great. Like no one will ever, we kind of like, we inflate, this like monetary success with like wellness almost. But like, I feel like I was very much a case where like you can be, like I got promoted like 4 or 5 times in a 10-year period. I like hustled. I was a really good worker, and I think I just misled myself and I was like, oh yeah, I'm killing it because I'm getting promoted. But like, I was really just killing me because I was like so stressed all the time. And it's weird. It's weird, but I'm glad that, I'm not doing that anymore because it's bizarre. I'm like, I'm way more broke now, but I'm like so much happier.
Well, that's it. Like this, I think the pandemic has shown us all that we need to take care of ourselves, and that the whole grind wasn't working, and it's not a healthy, not a positive thing to do.
It's really not. It's not necessary. We don't need it.
No, and like I was saying in my stream the other day, someone made a good point, like a counter argument to me about if I were to come here and tell you that, for example, the wax seals. If I were to tell you that I've got 798 million stamps for my wax seals, you would think I was nuts and I had lost it. Because like, why would you have 798 million of anything? But as soon as that becomes dollars, then you're respected and you're revered and you're looked up to and you're seen as this icon. And it's hoarding, just in a different thing. It's this like, it's not. I'm not a big fan of that.
It's no good. It's like, it's just there's just really no reason for anybody to like need all of the stuff that billionaires think that they need. You know what I mean? Like I feel like we think that billionaires are like these geniuses, but honestly, in my opinion, I think billionaires are like the biggest failures of humanity. Like, how can you possibly be in that position and not? I don't know. I just can't imagine having that much. Yeah, like they need therapy at least.
And if I'm not mistaken, the thing is too, like it clouds things, because everyone looks at Elon Musk and sees him as this titan of industry and this amazing person in science, technology, and stuff like that. If what I've seen through research and looking into things and stuff like that is true, that's not the case. He came from money, bought out a company that already existed that had R&D and technological capabilities and all this other stuff, became the owner of it, and hires people to do all the work. He comes up with ideas, but he hires people to do all the work. He's not this massive, wildly intelligent, technologically savvy person that's creating all this stuff. He was someone who had money that was able to put himself in the position to appear as such. And now because of him, all the stuff is coming out, but he's not, the Steve Jobs behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's so interesting, like the period of time that we're in, because like, because I know there's like a lot of this sentiment of like, oh, everything's gonna collapse, and I know that there can be like people can do a lot of doom scrolling. But I think what's interesting about what's going on like right now is that like the history that we have, like we've prioritized all these other previous like civilizations for the qualities that we think match what we have now. You know, like we see all these other past civilizations as successful because they mimic capitalism, and we think that capitalism is the greatest, but like that's not to say that like there isn't a better way to do it. We're just in this moment where like for whatever reason we've all decided that like making a lot of money in capitalism is the coolest thing,
Yeah.
but like now we're figuring out that it's not. And so
Well, and it causes problems. And like Base Prefect was saying, that they're push other people down to keep themselves up and feeling good. But that's the thing with me. Like when I created Wax Seal Productions, I've had a lot of people push back on me with it, just in the sense that one of my rules for the company is I still need to make money. I still need to make ends meet, provide for my family, have some savings, all that kind of stuff. But I'm not driven by financial incentive for it. I'm driven by making, like I said in the statement of values, making the literary journey accessible to everybody. And you shouldn't have to be like rich to be able to afford to get a book published, or to be able to afford an agent, or someone that's going to coach you and help you go along. So when I first started telling people that I was doing this company, and my prices are on a sliding scale. If you've got money, and I go with trust and respect. And if you have money, or if you're a corporation, then prices are at the high end. If you can't afford it, then the prices slide down. And that's because I don't believe in gatekeeping. And that art and this kind of stuff and life should be gatekept from people. And like Base Prefect was saying, that preventing poor people from achieving something because you want to make more money from it. And when I told people that, they were like, oh, well, good luck. Let me know how that works for you. I was like, well, so far it's been working pretty well.
negative. Like, you know what? Like everyone's a critic, right? Like, but like it's so easy to be critical, right? Like, and I think for me, I'm kind of like I'm in a phase of my life where I'm really 100% over criticism. Like, I think people think that criticism is pragmatism, and they're not the same. Like, I have no problem someone's going to be pragmatic about it. Like, okay, well, you got to support yourself, and there's logistical things you have to consider, and the way you approach your profit and loss statements is going to be different. Like, sure, be pragmatic. Like, that's fine. But like, don't just like poop on someone's idea just because you lack creativity and imagination. Like,
or the courage to try it, right?
Yeah. Like,
but that's the other thing, that I had this conversation with my wife, that I really get frustrated when you hear something of, a rich kid gets into trouble drinking and driving, an assault or something along those lines, and the response that you get from people like, oh, but they came from such a good family, they came from such a good household. It drives me wild that wealth is equated to goodness. If you have a family whose parents are doctors and lawyers and wealthy, then it's a good family. I have known people that have come from exceedingly rich families that had horrible childhoods, that had zero support, had complete neglect. Their parents were gone constantly, didn't even bring in childcare providers for them. They were just on their own and for all intents and purposes, abandoned. And I've also known people that have nothing, not even 2 pennies to rub together, and they're the most loving, supporting, and connected homes that you'll come from. And so just because, parents are working 2 jobs, or there's not a lot of money and they can't afford to go on these wild vacations, doesn't mean that, like, if you come from a poor family, that it's a bad family. But we've kind of got ourselves in this position. They're like, oh, well, that's shocking they did that. They came from such a good family.
Yeah, because we have this incorrect idea that like wealth is like valuable is a marker of someone's character, and it's really not. Like, I have the same experience. I've known, I mean, I went to a private art school. I was surrounded by tons of people who had a lot of money. I didn't relate to them at all, and didn't, they were all just as screwed up as poor people were, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well,
that's it. And I'm not one to hold punches. And I can be very vocal at times. And I was actually at a dinner party with several other people, and there's this one couple, and the female of the couple is always a bad actor. Always ignorant, always in people's faces, always saying ridiculous stuff. And they've came into money, so they actually have more money and they think they're better than everyone. And partway through the dinner, I got so angry at something that they said after they've been doing a whole bunch of things leading up to this point that I put down my fork and knife and I lit into this person, and I told her what I thought and other like just things surrounding the conversation that was happening to put her right on a bunch of different things. And then I finished by saying, thank you very much, because you've just proven that money cannot buy you dignity or class.
No, it really can't.
And everyone at the table went stock silent. And then her husband stood up. And I was like, and this is where things get physical. And he actually reached out and shook my hand and said I would have done the exact same thing in this scenario. He's like, I respect you much more than I did before because of what you just did.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's such a bizarre time. I hope it's like keeps moving in the direction that it is, because, like it's, we have to stop believing that just because people are wealthy, like that they're better, that they've achieved more, or that they work harder, or any of that, because it's just absolutely untrue. Yeah. Like, it's completely untrue.
I mean, something's going to break if it doesn't. Here, house price, the average house price here is almost $800,000 for like a bungalow, and rent is for a 1-bedroom apartment is $1,400.
Jeez, that's like New York City.
Well, that's the thing. It's not tenable, and you cannot survive on that. And without having roommates and all these other things, the generations coming up are never going to be able to buy a house. Yeah. Like, our neighbor is original to the community and bought in '62 when it was built. And they bought their house for $16,000, 1/6. Her house is now worth about $870,000.
That's so insane.
From the '60s to now. And how is that? And of course, we know inflation and cost of living and wages and things aren't keeping pace with the way they need to be. And so it just comes to a point that something is going to break.
Yeah, no, I think so too. Like, I mean, you can squeeze the masses only for so long before the masses are like, this is absurd. Like,
yeah, eat the rich.
Like, well, and it's also just crazy because, like, and I remember thinking about this, like, when I would manage profit and loss statements for the hotel, and I could never understand why, like, if we needed more money for something that was going to benefit like the entire like hotel and all of the employees, but it was going to cost another like $2,000 a month or whatever it was, I never understood why we couldn't just go to the shareholders or go to the owners and be like, can you guys just make less money this year? Like, we need to fix some shit. Like, why is it never on the table to just tell the CEOs or whoever is making the most money, like, can you guys just please make 20% less this for 1 year so we can like
do what needs to be
survive? Done. Like, that's never on the. Why is that never on the table?
Well,
like,
because there's this incessant, again, to me, I think it's an illness of every year has to be growth over growth.
Yeah.
You have to be 10% more than last year, 20% more than the previous to that, and the quarters have to be growth. There comes a point that you can stagnate for a little while, especially if you've got record profits constantly. You can stagnate for a little while and allow things to grow. Like, that's where I appreciate you see like that gentleman in the States who took a massive pay cut for himself. He was the CEO and ended up paying all of his staff minimum $80,000 a year, I think it was. Productivity went up, happiness went up. Because if you have a worker who's stressed about paying their bills, keeping their house over their head, or a roof over their head, taking care of their family, they're not fixed and focused on work.
Yeah.
Their anxiety, their mind, their mental state is completely interfering with everything.
Yeah.
Right?
But I think capitalism currently benefits off of that, because then they can get away with like abusing people and not having to do anything about it, because people are in this state of like, oh, well, I'm desperate for this job or whatever. But I don't know, that's my dream, is like to do something similar. Like, I would love to, knock on wood, if I could make, being a Twitch streamer and artist and just a person profitable in my life. That would be cool, because my expenses are relatively low. And anything else that I have, I want to extend to my creative community and to the people that I know, so I can help other people. I have no interest in hanging out with anybody like wealthy at all. Like I don't care about buying nice furniture. I don't care about like, I don't know, going on vacations or whatever. Like I just,
Yeah.
you know, I just want to help the community and my friends. And I want the people that I love and care about to have peaceful and happy lives.
Yeah, and just lead a good life. And that's the thing with Wax Seal Productions. My ultimate goal with it is to expand it. My business plan now is to take on as much work as I can handle and have it, that'll bring it to a good level of productivity, and then continue taking on more work, because then when I can take on more work than I can handle, that's when you pull in someone else.
Yeah.
When you start actually hiring and building and growing and connecting with other people. And, I've got people that I'm interested in eventually bringing on as contract workers and things like that. And, because these are, like we said, share the wealth. And I think it's always been my opinion that if you have more than you need, you are beholden to share.
No, totally.
What you have.
Absolutely. And well, it's something that I'm sure that, as a parent, you think about too, because we tell kids like, oh, like one of the things that we tell our 3-year-old, is that we're sharing family, we share everything. And then it's so interesting that that's the message we tell children, but then the real world, people are not sharing.
Oh, exactly.
In real life, people are just not, it's like there are these principles we teach our children, and then it becomes very clear that in real life that they're not being followed. And but I think more people are interested in really sharing any sort of wealth and making things better as they go.
Yeah. Especially our generation and the next generation, like the generations coming up, I think, are realizing. And because you see these things where I just saw a TikTok the other day where someone getting the phone call because in the scenario, the company had laid off all these people at the beginning of the pandemic. Now they couldn't get anyone to come and work and be hired. So they're trying to rehire everyone back. And this one person was like, nope, I'm, she's like, what are you doing now? Well, I'm a dog walker and I do these other little things. Like, oh, that's terrible. So you want to come back? Like, no, I'm happy. I've got 2 or 3 little jobs. I'm making ends meet. I'm doing what I need to do. And I'm out of that mess. I don't have to commute. I don't have to deal with any of this other stuff. And, I can be a part of a greater community. But there's the older generation that's like, oh, you want to be a dog walker? Okay.
Yeah, like it's embarrassing to be a dog walker or whatever, but like it's really not. Like I don't know. Again, it's like why are we inflated some of inflated some of these jobs as like being these like incredible, like prestigious, respectable things, and like regular jobs are not. Like all jobs are respectable. They're jobs. So
yeah, and they all provide something. Like if you're looking down on the person that's selling you shoes, well, you're not going to be able to buy shoes. And that was something that through various parts of my life, doing different things like modeling and acting and different things like that, and working in classical music and stuff, I have, been at parties and been at dinners and stuff like that with like prime ministers and heads of state and like CEOs of companies and stuff like that. And that's the thing that oftentimes drives people nuts is I treat everyone the same.
Yeah.
And so I don't care who you are, if you're a janitor or if you're the CEO of a company or if you're literally the prime minister, you're going to get the same level of respect from me as everyone else is. I'm not going to kowtow to you. I'm not going to, blow smoke because I think you're an important person. You're a person who's got an important job.
Yeah.
That doesn't make you a better person than anyone else.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm also terrible at blowing smoke. I'm really bad at it. Like for the second people start blowing smoke for certain people, it's like I'm immediately like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Just like, you're a human being on this planet. Like, we're all humans, okay? Like,
yeah. Well, I used to work at Starbucks, and there was a guy that came in every day, and he was very just, I don't know what his job was, but you couldn't talk to him. He would come in, and even if you were brand new, it was first thing in the morning, he would come in, he would just, if you were brand new, he would tell you once what his order was and expect you to remember it. And if you talked to him or anything, he would get actively pissed off and angry at you. So me being me, every time he'd come in, he'd be like, good morning, how are you today? I'm like, do you want this regular again? And I could tell that he would get red in the face that I was actually communicating with him. And because I worked downtown in the parliamentary district and all these other high businesses. And so I could tell that I was really ruffling his feathers and getting under his skin. And every single morning, so I always work mornings, I would do the exact same thing. And then finally, eventually one day, he said hi back to me.
Yeah.
And started talking back to me and whatever, because I guess he just realized I was going to be annoying until he did.
Until he recognized your humanity. Like, come on now.
You know, and it was just one of those things where I'm like, and I had coworkers be like, "Oh, you can't talk to this guy." I'm like, "The hell with that! I can talk to whoever I want to talk to."
Exactly. There's no reason for people to be acting like that. And like, I don't know. It's like, and it's bizarre that you know that people get into that mode of existing. You know, like that guy's not happy. Like, there's no way he's happy acting like that. That can't feel good. So
Yeah. Whereas my wife used to work in a car rental place, and I'm blanking on his name now, but the famous Canadian astronaut Mark Hatfield. Anyways, famous Canadian astronaut, went to the moon and all that stuff. He would come in and rent cars from my wife when she worked at this place, and he was one of the nicest guys she'd ever met. Like, he was very just down to earth, being an astronaut, but very like calm and nice and kind with everyone that he spoke to, and yeah, it was just a really cool person to be dealing with. So there's all kinds in all different levels of society. So
yeah.
there's that. But yeah, so I'm very happy that you came through to talk about your artwork and
Yeah, thanks for
talk about
having
your
me.
show. We have the post. I'll post the link in chat again. I think it's still the same thing. That doesn't want to do that for me. There we go. For anyone who may have missed it, there's a link in chat. And so does this ship really worldwide, or is it just within America?
As far as I know, they ship worldwide. They haven't told me they don't ship worldwide, so I'm going to assume that they do. And if somebody international within driving distance buys something and they need help, maybe I'll drive up there or down there. I'll see. I'll help them.
That sounds good. Yeah, I'm definitely going to take a look at some of these things. And I mean, they're all extremely reasonably priced, too.
Oh, good.
Because you hover over and you can see the prices pop up. For those of you that are going to check out the website, you can see what the prices are. And of course, US dollars.
I try to like really have like to price things out like in different, like all the work on my Etsy is anywhere from like $9 to like around 50, I would say. And then like stuff that's in the gallery, that's kind of like a little bit for a different market, so that's priced higher than that. But I try to like price things so that way there's, if like whatever you can afford, there's something you can buy. Like,
yeah. And the big thing with that too is that it just allows, like, when you've got proper pricing. I've got another friend of mine who's an artist and always had troubles at shows. He wasn't great artwork, but wasn't selling anything. And I said, yes, because you're selling all of your stuff for like $10, $20. Because he was just thinking that if it's a lower price, I'm going to make more sales. I'm going to make more money that way. I'm like, yeah, but you completely devalue your art if you do that. If you can't put a value on your art, no one else is going to value it.
yeah, I mean, it's weird to put a high value on something, especially if it's like more than like $1,000, because it feels odd. But really, like, you know, you're talking about like 15 years of practice that you've been making work, like whatever education you've had, not only the materials but the time. And so when you really start calculating it all, it's like that's at least that helps me to like, create a price.
Yeah. And it makes sense. Like the rabbit that I was talking about, that we have hanging in the kitchen, we had saved up money for a while we have like an art fund that we kind of put money aside into over time to collect and everything. And that's the biggest and most expensive piece. And we ended up paying $4,000 for that. Mm-hmm. But it's worth every penny for it. And it's art, so its value is going to increase.
Yeah.
And you can sell it and make your money back from it and all that stuff going down the road. And so we've got art, like that's the highest level. And we've also got art that we've paid I think like $15 for.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's support, and it's being a part of like being a patron of the arts.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's like also I mean we have a lot of work up in our house just because a lot of our friends are artists. We've done like artist trades and whatnot. And when you live with a work of art, the experience is so much different, and it really it turns it just turns a wall, it turns your environment into a space that suddenly feels like really like yours and feels very personal and very specific. And that's also something that, like, if you have kids, like they'll get those works of art, like it's really, it's something that you can have for a really long time. And I always tell people, like, don't buy the IKEA art, like find your local artist, like go to a coffee shop or wherever where they have artwork hanging, find something you like and buy it, because that's going to add so much more value than, whatever they have at IKEA for $10, printed on a canvas.
And it's not going to last. It's going to fade. And that's the thing too. Like this artist with the bunny, he, after we bought that piece of art, and he had this beautiful art show, and there's so many other pieces we wanted to buy, but again, you save money for things that are important, and we saved up, and that was a piece that we wanted to be our big expenditure. And he's, a lot of his artwork, some of his artwork is now hanging in the National Gallery of Canada.
That's so cool.
And he's really like just come up as like even bigger than he was before when we first met him. And so I'm fully expecting to be in a situation to get a phone call one day of someone saying, "Can we borrow this piece to put into this gallery for a little while?" And if that could happen soon, it'd be great, because I'm concerned because the toddler throwing food and stuff.
Hey, that's what preservationists are for, okay?
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
There's a whole job for that if it gets serious.
Yeah, that is very true. But, well, I very appreciated having this chat with you and discussing, like we said, about life and art and everything else. And congratulations on the new edition that is coming to your life. It's probably your second greatest piece of art, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Your child being the first. Yeah. But and that's a big thing. I met an artist once who said that their biggest piece of art that they ever did was their child, and it was because they are spending years molding a human.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you really are.
And it does feel like a work of art in some sense, because like I think any good work of art has a life of its own beyond what you're doing. You have your intention, but when it's done, it is what it is, and it never 100% matches your intention, even if you try and you spend years trying to make it so. And so having a little one does feel like that, because it's like you have this intention to have this child, but then like it comes out, has a whole personality on its own, and really you're just trying to mold it and facilitate the best possible growth and outcome for it. It's not, it's, they're their own person completely.
So I'm trying to explain to my wife, we're having difficulty with sleeping. Like, she only had one nap today, which is not acceptable for an 11-month-old. Yeah. And my wife was getting really frustrated. I'm like, it's a living creature, a human being. You cannot like turn off a switch and say, go to sleep. Like, if she's not tired, she's not going to sleep.
Yeah.
And you have to deal with that. Like, it's as tired as you are, it doesn't matter.
It's tough though. Like, there's like sleep is there's a lot of really old school ideas that I think have impacted how people are making decisions about when kids should sleep. Like, our 3-year-old just recently stopped napping completely. And then we've transitioned into like a quiet time, nap time, where she can play in her room quietly by herself, or if she wants to be with me, she has to like kind of be chill, because she still needs that time. But it's like, if she doesn't exercise enough in the morning, it's just like there's no way she's going to be peaceful during that time. So it's like you're managing someone's like bodily necessities and like trying to make it work.
Yeah. For me, the hardest thing with that is water. So I'm so used to having cats and dogs, where if they're thirsty, you leave the water on. If they're thirsty, they go for it. And now it's like every once in a while, like every couple hours, I'm like, oh damn, are you thirsty? Do you need liquid? Like, I have to give it to you. Actually, you just can't go get it yourself. Yeah. And then also like with us, like I don't know what you guys were doing, but we got into because we're doing the potty training now, and we had kind of been getting her water in the middle of the night if she wanted it, or like if she wanted milk, we would give that to her, even though she's like kind of too old for doing that. But now we like ran into this issue where if she has something to drink like after 8 p.m., then the likelihood of her wetting the bed is like higher, which is just like really personal. Hopefully she never watches this later. Sorry. But so like now it's like, now there's a no water and no drinks rule after a certain time, which also feels bizarre, because we're like, no, we will deprive you of this beverage. Like, A desert you
it's
shall
just,
be.
yeah.
But no,
Exactly.
there's things you have to do. Like we're potty training now as well. Actually, she's 11 months old. We've already started potty training,
That's great.
and it's interesting to say the least. But you know, we're doing that and trying to, yeah, give her autonomy to figure out what she wants and needs. But
Hmm.
it really is trying to find that balance and trying to figure it all out.
Yeah, and every kid is different, and there's no super right or wrong. As long as your kid is not like, being tortured, I mean, you're in good shape, I think, Each kid needs something. Some kids need structure, some kids do not like it, so it's just,
Yeah,
it's
it's just a
hard.
matter of keeping the no. And she's smart. She takes after me in being slick on some stuff. So at like 10 months, she got caught eating Kleenex that she wasn't supposed to be eating. So my wife took it away from her, and then she looked over and she saw another piece over on the couch. So she kind of like casually walked over and palmed it, and then walked as far away from my wife as she could and kind of bent down. I was like, "You're 10 months old. You should
Yeah,
not know that. You need
she's
to go and
sneaky.
hide to sneak something." Like
Mhm.
if you're doing that at 10 months, then we are in trouble for our future, most definitely.
Yeah, no, kids are smart. They're smart.
We don't give kids enough credit in the West. Like
Yeah,
kids
we don't.
in Japan and in Eastern countries are using paring knives to cut up their own apples at 4 years of age.
Wow.
Here, you're still using blunted scissors by the time you're 7. Like when you're in school, you can't even
That's true,
cut with
actually.
scissors properly. Like it's we
Yeah.
really coddle our kids and don't give them enough credit for what they're capable of.
Yeah, they are. They are capable of a lot. My daughter can make her own sandwiches. Sometimes I don't let her though because it's a turns into from a 2-minute chore into a 15-minute ordeal, and then she's scooping peanut butter out and eating it from the jar. So
I do that too, though. So it's a great way for a boost of protein. Anyway, speaking of the kids and everything and rest, I'll let you go get some rest. And thank you
thank you
very
so much.
much. We'll have to bring you back on somewhere down the road. And you're
Yeah.
always welcome to come onto the Writers Chat and have a conversation. And best of luck for the rest of your show for the rest of the month. And I'm excited to see what other stuff you come up with. And I'm excited to see the comic book jump back into life again.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. Thank you so much for having me. Like I love everything that you're working on, and I love hearing all of your projects and your company, and I wish nothing but the most success to you and everything going on. So yeah, I'll definitely be back. I don't know when. We'll have to think of a good reason.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for that. And I appreciate the wish of success for the company, because if my company is successful, then that means other people are successful as well.
Yeah. You're doing good stuff. We're doing good things.
Yes. All right. Have a fantastic night. Thank you very much for coming through. And I'll
All right,
catch
of
you
course,
again
my
sometime soon.
pleasure. Have a good one.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.